Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the College Week Live Professional Development Series. We hope this session will be valuable for helping you prepare your students for college success. Please know that in order to receive your hours towards your CEUs, you must complete the brief survey at the end of this presentation. Before we get started, I would like to remind our audience that we will be taking questions in real time throughout this presentation. You can send us your questions anytime during the program through the box in the lower left hand side of your screen. Good morning again. Now that the housekeeping items are out of the way, my name is Juan Garcia. I serve as an Assistant Vice President for Career and College Readiness at ACT, based in Iowa City, Iowa. We're going to talk today about the condition report that we did for first generation students. You can see the PowerPoint. My contact information is there. I will have that contact information as well at the end of the presentation. And to go to the intro, I will tell you my story at the end of the presentation to make sure that we allow time for questions. I think throughout this, you can ask the questions online as we go through, but also at the end, perhaps some of the data that you're going to see will prompt some questions. Let's go ahead and get started. So what are we going to talk about? Briefly about ACT, about how ACT and the Council for Opportunity and Education came together and to come up with a report. We're going to talk about college readiness. What does ACT mean when a student saying that a student is college ready? We're going to review the report. What are we talking about, or what do we find out when the students are talking about aspirations? What kind of benchmarks they met? What kind of courses were they taking? This is interesting because we need to make sure that the students are taking the right classes as they prepare for college. And last but not least, resources. Having worked with many counselors, not only here in Iowa, but also throughout the country, your role is so important and your time also. So many of you have wear more than one hat in that building. So how are we making sure that we are dedicating the time and effort to help the students who perhaps need our help the most? So let's go ahead and get started. What a lot of people don't know about ACT is that ACT is a non-for-profit. As a non-profit, everything that we do is driven by our mission. You can see our mission and our values there. I'm not going to read it all. But what I do want to make sure that I get across is that everything that ACT does is driven by our mission, which is helping people achieve education and workplace success. Similar to what you do as educators, as counselors, as administrators, you are working in a field where it is our goal to make sure that all students are better off as they exit high school and follow some type of post-secondary education, whatever that means to them, whether they're going to a certificate program, a 2-year program, or a 4-year program. We have always told students that all students have to follow something after high school. So about the ACT COE partnership, how did this came about, and why did we decide to do this? Non-profit organizations coming together, driven by their missions. You can see here COE's mission statement, where it is to advance and defend the ideal of equal education opportunity in post-secondary education, especially for the least advantaged. And what we see here is that the emphasis on underserved students, low income, first generation, minority students. Every building, as I travel the country, we're seeing more minority students becoming the majority, and the challenge that represents for the resources and services available. ACT's Vantage Point, as you know, we have been in business for over 53 years now. Everything that we do is around this framework, and is the cornerstone of our framework is the ACT College and Career Readiness benchmarks, or the standards that we have. We're going to dive into that a little bit because I think it will give you a good context of what did we find on the report, how do we measure those results, and what drove us to get there. A lot of our research, a lot of people, again, only know ACT based on the ACT exam that you take as a junior or as a senior as you prepare to enter high school. Data drives everything that we do, and our reports are helping us provide guidance as to best practices to use or the steps to take to help students. So, about the condition report. Every year, ACT publishes the Condition of College and Career Readiness Report. It's a national report. Again, is published every year, and it talks and it has data and the findings on all the students who took the ACT state in every state in the country. Last year, we have 1.8 million students take the ACT. Out of that report, we did the subset report again, the first time we have done this, that focuses on first generation students. I'm going to get into the definition of what's a first generation student in the eyes of ACT and in the eyes of the Council for Opportunity and Education, and how we measure that data. And information that is going to help us help the students. So, what is meant by college readiness? How do we define this? At ACT, we define this as the level of achievement a student needs to be ready to enroll and succeed without remediation classes in a credit-bearing first-year post-secondary course. What does that mean? It means that a student graduates from high school, they have a high school diploma, and they can go to a post-secondary institution, 2-year, 4-year, and have a college-level class, and don't need a remediation class to get into level. We're talking about academic readiness in English, reading, math, and science. Something that is not included yet is the behaviors and goals. We're working on that, and that research is going to be coming up, where not only we're looking at the academics, but also at the social behavior of the student. All of this is relevant for 2-year and 4-year institutions because we talked to all of them as we came up with the college readiness definition. So the benchmarks, what is meant by how do we measure this, how do we come up with these benchmarks? Those are the scores needed in the subject areas that ACT tests that represent a high probability of success in a corresponding credit class. So what does that mean? How do we come up with it? We study over 230,000 students at more than 200 post-secondary institutions, meaning, again, 2-year and 4-year institutions, and we ask the question, so for what is the typical set of expectations of an incoming student in order for him or for her to be successful in a credit class, again, without the need of those remediation classes. Again, making sure that students are graduating from high school, college, and career ready. And again, we work with over 200 schools to come up with this data. So now talking about the college readiness and some of the basic findings of the report or the basic definitions. How do we define a first generation student? Within our report is a student whose parents did not enroll in post-secondary education. So the students who will be the first one of their families going to a post-secondary institution, and the Council for Opportunity and Education describes them as parents who did not complete a bachelor's. So someone who started school but did not complete their bachelor's degree. Now looking at all the students, 1.8 million students who on total who took the ACT, first generation students represent about 20%, 19% of the total. So 335,000 students identify themselves as being first generation. Now, bear in mind that in 11 states, or 13 now, what we do census testing with ACT, where all students take the ACT as a junior. Last year, 54% of all high school graduates took the ACT. So And then we measure this compared to college readiness benchmark attainment. How are those students who are graduating from high school, who happen to be in this case first generation, how are they meeting our benchmarks? This is yes a map of where students were taking the ACTR and the quantities. You can see that the dark purple ones are the ones that have 100,000 plus students, and you can see where they are throughout the country. Now, altogether, again, last year, 1.8 million students who took the ACT. Now, when it comes to college readiness benchmarks, I wanted to give you an example, in this case, English. So a student who scores a 20 or a 23, we have defined what he or she are likely to know. So you can see here on the red arrow, the statements that describe what the students are likely to know and be able to do at that level. So based on your score, we know what you're pretty much able to do because you demonstrated that on the exam. Now, we also have the steps for that student to continue to learn, continue that progress, and what is he or she likely to continue to have the higher level of achievement. So, the statements that provide suggestions to progress to a higher level of continued achievement on that student's high school career. So, it gives you a picture of where you are and where the student is right now and how you can take them to the next level. Continuing talking about college readiness benchmarks, how do we determine this? So these are the scores for the ACT for English, math, reading, and science. As you can see, English we have an 18, 22 for math, 22 for reading, and 23 for science. A lot of times the first question that comes up is, why is science so high? We didn't come up with a number. Remember that we talked to over 200 plus 2 or 4 year institutions, and to be able to be successful in that first year science class, in this case, for example, biology, that's what the student is going to need to have a 50% chance of getting a B or higher in that class, and also a 74% chance of getting a C or higher. So that's what the benchmarks determine. That if you're able to obtain these scores during the ACT, we can pretty much project that you're going to be 50% chances of getting a B and 70% chances of getting a C. And again, all this starts with 8th grade, 9th grade, the plan exam, and then our capstone assessment, the ACT. Uh, I see that someone is asking, are these charts available to schools? Yes, they are. The one that talks about where the student is, and I actually going to go back. The college readiness standards. We have these big posters that many counselors and teachers use to decorate their classrooms. Um, Feel free to connect with me at the end, and I will connect you with our local person who serves your area and make sure that you get a supply of these posters. They're very, very useful. And again, as you have that on the wall, you can walk a student and say, you know, where he or she is right now, and where they fall and what can they do to take it to the next level. So we'll have those available. And also, another question coming up, can we get a copy of the PowerPoint afterwards? Yes, my colleagues at College Week Live will have that available. You can watch it as many times as you need to. And I think you can also, if you want to hear this ugly voice again, the whole webinar will be available afterwards. So thanks for those comments. And you can tell it's good information that is going to help you. So again, just to recap the college readiness benchmarks, these are the scores that we recommend. So if a student is meeting 18 in English, 22 in math, 22 in reading, and 23 in science, then we can predict his level of achievement of that first year of class, again, without the need of remediation. Um, Having worked with many, many students here in Iowa, and also traveling the country, what we see a lot is, or what I personally see when I deal with Hispanic students, for example, many of them are graduating from high school. They're not ready for college. They're taking the ACT. They're saying they're going to college. They're borrowing money. And they go to a 2 or 4 year institution, and the first thing they have to do is take some remediation classes. Now, they're taking classes they're not getting credit for. They're being brought up to speed so that they can be at the level of their peers. Many of these students get discouraged. Some of them don't come back for semester two. Some of them finish year one and they haven't received any credits because they have been on remediation classes and they don't come back. Now, they're out of school. They have a high school diploma. They went to college for year one. They don't have any credits, but they have student loans. How do we help those students make better decisions earlier so that we can help them, again, make better decisions and they don't have to, get into that type of trouble because now they have to work to pay those loans and their chances of returning to college are diminished significantly. Okay, now we're gonna dive more into the report, get some of the information that we found. What we're gonna talk about aspirations. What are these students aspiring to do? The readiness and what kind of classes have they been taking? Are they taking the core classes needed to graduate, or are they just barely coasting through to finish high school without being challenged? You're gonna find this information, I think, very interesting and educational aspirations, for example. So remember that we're talking about 336,000 students nationwide who identify themselves as first generation students. Now, out of the total, 94% of these first generation students aspire to earn a post secondary degree. Now, here in the dark blue, you can see first generation students versus all students. So look at here where it says bachelor's degree. More than 52% of the students who are first generation have the aspiration to have a bachelor's degree, even a 2 year degree, 14%. So 52% of these students say, I want to go to college. I want to do something, regardless of my circumstances, so regardless of where I came from. So how do we help those students? How do we help their parents? Because remember that being first generation also means that a lot of the parents are lacking information. So we're going to get to some tools at the end that I think you're going to find exciting, not only for the students, but also for parents, and the fact that this new tool is totally free and available to you as a counselor and also to your students and their families. So again, 14% said, I want to get an associate or a 2 year degree or a vocational tech degree. 28% said, I want to get a professional degree. So those aspirations are there. And again, I think it goes to prove that every student is college material. Now, college material meaning whatever college means to them. As this chart proves, certificate program, 2 year, 4 year degree. I think as a society, we have to make sure that we're helping the students get to that level because it's only going to be better for the communities where they live in and their families. Now, um, now that we know that they're aspiring to go to college or get some type of post-secondary education, how are they doing when it comes to attaining those benchmarks? The numbers that we talked about earlier on English, math, reading, and science. Well, when it comes to English, our first generation students are represented here by the dark blue. 42% of them met the English benchmark. Only 42%. When we're talking about all students, 1.8 million students who took the ACT last year, 64% of them meet that benchmark. When it comes to reading, 24 for our students, 44% for the entire population. Math, 22% versus 44. Science, 17% versus 36. How many students met all benchmarks? 9%. 9% of students who took the ACT are ready for the college level class without the need of education. So that represents about 30,000 students out of the 336,000 students who do the ACT. So think about those numbers. 336,000 last year, 30,000 are ready for a college class. What is going to happen to all the other 300,000 plus? How do we help those students be successful on whatever path they take? So, and again, as we also talk about STEM, math and science, those numbers are low compared to the general population. Now, perhaps you're aware that about a month ago, ACT released a STEM report. I recommend you go to our website, act.org, go to the research tab, and read some about what we found out about STEM capabilities or aspirations of the students who took the ACT last year. Again, this is taking that group of 1.8 million students and diving a little bit on how are they on their measured interest of STEM. Again, could be a student who says, I want to be an engineer, but he or she is not taking the math and science classes that they should be taking to push themselves. So how do we get that information and how do we relate the two so that we can have that information ready for them so that the earlier they start, they are taking the necessary steps to do that. So again, only about 30,000 met our benchmarks. When it comes to science, it's about 57,000, and for math, it's about 73,000 students who met that single benchmark. Now, this is the one that I'm most concerned about, is because again, we have 300,000 plus students who didn't meet a single benchmark. The next one, college readiness benchmarks attainment, and what's more important here is the near attainment. These are students who are close to meeting the benchmark. So what are we saying here? On light blue, these are the students who are below the benchmark by 3 or more points. The ones on dark blue are the one that met the benchmark. So in English, we said that 42% of the students met the benchmark for English. Well, that's great. 43,000 students were 2 points close to that benchmark. So what kind of intervention can we have on these students right now so that they can move from, oh, I'm only 2 points shy of meeting that benchmark, to say, I am at the benchmark or above. The same thing with reading. 24% met that benchmark. 30%, about 43,000 students, are close to, very close to meeting the benchmark. Again, how do we help them? For math, 22%, that represents about 27,000 students who are very close to meeting the math benchmark. And as math and science become even more important, again, what kind of intervention, what kind of steps can we take in the buildings to make sure that we're helping the students? Science is 17% who met the benchmarks. 14% of these students, or almost 47,000 students, are this close. Again, how can we push the students just a little bit more so that they can attain these benchmarks? Okay, now looking at the entire group as a whole, for first generation students and their college readiness benchmarks attained, look at this, that 52% of the students didn't meet a single benchmark, meaning they didn't have the scores high enough for English, math, reading, or science. 52% of our first generation students, this represents about 175,000 students nationwide. 175,000 that are not ready. Okay, 18% met one benchmark, 13% met two benchmarks, 8% for three, and like we said earlier, 9% met all four benchmarks. If you look at the chart, there's a smaller pie chart here on the right-hand side. Look at the numbers for all the students. This is inclusive of all the students who took the ACT last year, 1.8 million. 31% of the students didn't meet a single benchmark. The number is much greater for our first generation students. So again, in your building, start thinking of interventions that can take place. What kind of programs can we connect these students with to get them to take the next step or to push themselves a little harder? I think as you well know, all of this ties to the rigor in the classroom. The more rigor there is in the classroom, the more students are likely to do to get those scores higher. Now, talking about the classes that the students are taking, are they taking the core classes required? By core, we mean the English, math, reading, and science classes required for graduation, and maybe even pushing yourself a little more than that. For first generation students, 44% are taking more than core when it comes to English. 22% are taking less than core, meaning these students, when it comes to an English class after graduation, they're not going to be ready for that. Reading, the same thing. 25% are taking more than core, 14% are not. For math, 24%, and 4% of mathematics are taking less than core. For science, 19%, and 8% are taking way less than what's needed. Again, rigor in the classroom, how do we push the students to select? I'll give you a perfect example. I have four daughters who I happen to use as test cases a lot. One of them came on her senior year and he says, I only have to take one, two classes, and I'll be getting out of school early every day. Or no, you're not. So we went back, we revised the classes, and then she took a full schedule again. So making sure that somehow we're communicating with those parents, communicating with those students, and letting them know what options they have available. Are you taking any AP classes? Are you pushing yourself a little harder um, to make sure that you are ready for those? Um, let me see here. I think I have a question coming up. We're going to wait just a little bit for that so we have time to go through all the slides. So it is important to remember. Some of the numbers I have given you are alarming. As a minority myself, and I said I will tell you my story here in a few minutes. It is important that as we see more majority schools, um, that what tools can we have in place? What kind of resources, and how do we make sure also that parental engagement is taking place to make sure that those parents are involved, regardless of where they come from or their academic experience. I have dealt with parents who didn't even finish elementary school. But they wanted the students, as a parent, we want all our kids to be, 10 times better than we are. So it is important to remember that what we have learned through this is giving us a better understanding that about first generation students. We do know that many students face many challenges to their academic success. I'll share a good story about a student who really, a couple of years ago, opened a few eyes at a conference I was in by sharing her story on how after school she has to hurry up, go home, um, pick up brother and sister from daycare because they stay a little later. They have to pay more for daycare. In the meantime, mom and dad are leaving their first job and they're going to their second full-time job. Now, this 15-year-old is in charge of two younger siblings, bringing them home, pay them, feed them, play with them, be mom, if you will, until midnight when mom and dad get home. At the time that mom and dad get home, she has homework to do. What does she want to do? The last thing she's thinking about is the school. She just wants to go to bed. The next morning, same thing. She gets up. Mom and dad are going out the door to their first job. She is responsible for feeding the kids and taking them to daycare. Then she comes to class. Sometimes she's running to school late. At school, she's called lazy. And she said this. And you was just the passion that she had as she was talking because she says, when I'm in the building, you guys call me lazy. You don't know what's going on in my house. You don't know what I have to do as soon as I wake up and as soon as I leave school. So sometimes in class, tired, she's falling asleep. But again, asking questions to those students to try to understand what else is going on, what are they having to deal with that perhaps becomes a challenge for their academic success, and what kind of programs can we present them to so that they can get some help. Um, Last check mark here, yes, we know that many are not academically ready for college as they need to be. So what can we do about that? And we're going to get that in just a second. So the most important thing to remember out of this study is that 94% of the students said that they aspire to earn some type of post-secondary degree. So the aspirations are there. Aspirations, resources, how do we match those two to make sure that those students have a chance? Next, 2 out of 3 took ACT's recommended core curriculum in one of the subject areas, English, math, reading, or science. So 2 out of 3 students are on track for that one benchmark. How do we open that to make sure that it applies to all of them? And 60% of 8th and 10th graders were on target to be academically prepared for college level courses in at least one subject. So 60% of 8th graders and 10th graders are on track to make sure that are career and college ready for at least one subject area. So, after all this information, you know, as a person working with students and doing the great job that you do, um, how do you help them? Well, something that we launched just a few months ago, and we haven't done a big marketing push or anything like that, is our ACT profile. It's a free, keyword free, online tool that helps the students answer the college question and career planning question of what do I want to do? And hopefully sparking that conversation with the students early on so that they can start figuring out, I want to be an engineer, and I'm not pushing myself on math and science, well, it's going to be hard, right? Or I want to be a doctor and I'm not taking my science classes. Um, what the students can do, or uh, I want to be an accountant, I want to be a mechanic, different things that they can do. It offers the students a powerful personalized insight about themselves. We have some assessments that are part of this tool, provided again, totally free. This is something that many people don't know is available yet because again, we haven't done a big marketing push. And it says here that it's in a beta mode because even though it has been released, ACT with us, with everything that we do, we always want to make sure that it's evolving and it's work in progress. So this tool is changing as we speak. We have panels of students that we meet with, users. How are they liking the tool? What can we improve? What else can we provide? All that information gets updated as we are developing the tool. You get to see actually a picture of what it looks like here in just a minute. So by having these assessments, the student gets an idea. Do you like to work with people? Do you like to work with data things? Start exploring and digging into what that career might be, and then we're going to be matching some interests with the based on the self-assessment results. Um, so the student will understand the educational path needed for each career. So if I want to be a business major, what should I be doing on 8th grade? What kind of classes that entail? So start getting that, get the wheels turning on what are the things that you need to be doing right now to do this later. Um, when I get to the picture of this, what ACT profile has right now, this is what it looks like. You can have the assessments are right here, interests, abilities, and values. So by taking these assessments, ACT profile is going to be able to tell the students, like, oh, based on your information, this is where you land on the map. And I'm going to show you the map that I'm referring to. Again, think of it as we are trying to communicate with the students the way they communicate. Web-based, free, which is great. They can access this on their tablets or their smartphones. And the beauty of it is that it's backed by ACT with all our years plus of research experience, and how we can make sure that we're providing this to every student out there. Counselors, you can also create a profile where you're connecting with your students. And again, sparking those conversations that hopefully will make you have more meaningful conversations with the students. Um, okay, this is what I wanted to get to. This is the major map, and what ACT has done is it has broken careers into 13 different clusters. Okay, so we use the major map to explore majors and to find the majors that the student will be interested in. Um, so as I said, I like to, based on my assessments that I have done thanks to ACT Profile totally free, I fall into the repair and construction area. What kind of jobs are there? What kind of duties will I have as a construction worker or as a builder? And if I am in 8th grade or 9th grade, what should I be thinking about right now to be doing this? Um, Go to the next one here. This is another picture that I'd like to show you. This is what we call our career map, or the wheel of work map, as we call it internally. Um, it's a simple way to organize occupations. So you have 26 different occupations here that you can discover. So you can drill down if you are in the technical area, or perhaps you are more of a business operations person. So where do you land? You're going to land somewhere. When I said that we are all good at something, here is a great opportunity to tell a student, this is, you're going to land here and you're going to have information to drill down on administration and sales. What kind of careers are here, and what kind of jobs? And then you can actually go see a description, and you're drilling down, and the goal here is that the student um, learns more about what that career does. So it's not, and we also know that this is going to change. If you take this as an 8th grader, obviously by the next year things will change. I have an 8th grader myself. She wanted to be a doctor. Now she's saying that she wants to be a vet. Later, she said that she wanted to be a makeup artist. Wow, big change. So start discovering more about yourself, your abilities, your values, and then focus that into a career field and how you can start managing that right now. Know that when you graduate, you have to have 100% all your decisions made, but at least we want to make sure that um, with the information that you have, you're leaning towards the right direction, something that is going to make sense to you, because we all know that as you go into college and you start changing majors, it can be a very expensive proposition. And that happens. It's normal sometimes, but then there are students who change multiple times, and then you're having more things to deal with besides academics and student loans and all of those other factors that apply. So think of ACT Profile as the service that is going to be there for you. It is there right now. It is available. To create a profile, we're talking about 60 minutes, 60 seconds to enter some information, take some of the easy questions. Everything is online, and you can start again having the student show you what he or her career comes up to be, and then knowing what you know about the student, knowing their academics, it might help you guide them a little better to see where they are and where they want to be. Um, we're getting towards the end of the presentation. I want to make sure that I have time for some questions, and I told you I was going to tell you my story, and I will in just a second. I wanted to show you also that ACT, we have a team that handles our social media. We are very active on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the things that the students are using right now. So, let me see here. We have a question. The question is information provided by the on ACT profile will be the same as provided on the Explore results? No, ACT profile is based on our prior assessment called Discover. So it has to do more with values and interests and things like that. So it's not a match to what the student receives on the Explore assessment. So thank you for that question. Again, we also have a Facebook account, the ACT test, where students can receive information on what is going on with their test results. When are they available to start going back to the ACT student page and start looking at your results. The question of the day. We have resources that we send to our Facebook page as to, if you're thinking about a career, think about this. Have you thought about this? And Twitter, the same thing. Our handle is @ACT I mentioned the question of the day, where students can go to the student page and find out what the question of the day is. The question of the day is a question that has been used on a prior ACT exam. So again, giving the student the opportunity to get familiar on how ACT asks the questions, how they can time themselves to make sure that they are used to the timing of the exam. We all know that students sometimes stress themselves out when they're taking an exam. Happened to my oldest daughter when the first time she took the ACT. Working at ACT, I wanted to be super proud and say, "Oh, I want to know what your score is going to be." So gave her the advice that we tell our students: you go to bed early, you prepare your clothes the night before, shut off your technology, just have your alarm clock so you get up on time, and get up, have a good breakfast, get a snack and a bottle of water, and off you go, and you're set. Well, my oldest daughter didn't listen as well. She stayed up late. She was texting with her friends until like 1 in the morning, I think. Got up, and I wanted to make it a good breakfast. Well, she was late. All that she had was a banana and a power bar, and off she went. She goes to take the test, and she says, "Oh, Dad, I froze," when she came back. And there's no time for freezing when you're taking a time exam. Dad, my stomach was making noises. I was so hungry, and I just froze for like 15 minutes. Obviously, the results of an exam weren't what I anticipated, but again, uh, it's amazing on how a good night's sleep will help you be ready, and a good breakfast will set you up to have a good a good experience when you're taking the ACT. That's the way I want to say it. Let me see here. I have a question coming up. Will I be doing a follow-up on how to help first-generation high school students become more college-ready, like helping them see the importance of scheduling, core classes, things like that? I think I will have a conversation with my friends in College Week Live. Maybe we can make this a series. Um, at this point, I'm going to get into my background. I've been at ACT for almost 3 years. For the prior 5, I work at a college access program here in Iowa, where we visited middle schools and high schools, talking to parents and students on how to prepare for college, how to be successful, financial aid, complete a FAFSA, travel all over the state. My personal story, and something that I'm uh, happy to share with the students and parents when I talk to them, is I'm originally from Peru, South America. I came here at age 18 to learn English. I didn't speak a word of English, and my first job here in Iowa was a dishwasher at the local hotel, because I couldn't say a word in English. So I started as a dishwasher, and now I work at ACT as an assistant vice president. Have I made it to the top? By no means. I want to continue to grow. But one of my passions is to make sure that all students, I don't care what color or what race, that all students, one, understand the opportunities that they have. Two, that they can see themselves doing something after high school. I think it is important not only for our country but our communities, and for them to help their families. If they happen to be first generation, guess what? They're going to become role models of their siblings cousins, uncle, or nephews and things like that, to people who are going to look after them. So we want to make sure that they are ready, and how are you paying it forward? Once you make it, what are you doing to help other people? Obviously, one of the things that I love about working at ACT, and I said this at the beginning, is the fact that we have uh, everything that we do is driven by our mission. Our goal is to make sure that more students are successful in college and career. That's what we do. That's one of my passions, and my personal passion is to make sure that, especially first generation students, see the light at the end of the tunnel. That there is opportunities, but also that they're responsible for pushing themselves and to come to class, do the homework, and be there and be active, and then from a counselor or a school staff standpoint, how do we connect with those parents? How do we connect with those parents? A lot of times we're going to have to do this in language because some of them probably speak English. So whatever language it is, I've been fortunate enough to work with many Hispanic parents who, after you talk to them, you know that they want their student to do better. You know that they want their student to do something after high school so that they don't have to go work at a factory like they do, working 12, 14-hour days, working hard labor. And um, how do we facilitate that? So another thing that I want to show you before it's time for us to go is our ACT student app. We have a phone app, and as you all know, students sometimes have better phones than we do. But we have an ACT student application where students can actually, you see the picture there, and I also have it on my phone. You can select practice, which is right here, and you can practice questions on English, math, reading, and science. What a great way to practice the ACT exam throughout the year. Something that I have always told my daughter says, you're not going to study for the ACT the night before, right? You have to make sure this is work in progress. So practice, practice, practice. And at the time that you're taking the exam, you're going to be more comfortable not only with the questions, but with the fact that the exam is timed, and it's nothing. Uh, if you have paid attention, as our exam is curriculum based, if you have paid attention in high school and done what you needed to do, you're not going to have any trouble doing well on the exam. So let me see if we have another question here. Okay, ideas on working with students as early as elementary. As you know, some of you might have heard that ACT is also starting assessments as early as the third grade. Our ACT Aspire product starts talking to students on the third grade, and when we made that announcement a few months ago, one of the questions that came up was, "So, are you going to be talking to students about career and college and third grade?" No, but what that assessment does is it builds year after year and is capstone by the ACT in grade 11 and 12. So think about the longitudinal um, process to provide information to administrators and districts on if you have a student in third grade that is not ready and is not reading at level or doing things at level, what can you do early? I mean, our clients have told us for years that I need something earlier. The earlier the better. What kind of interventions can I have? So don't wait for that student to be in middle school. Whatever we can do in elementary to help them, we're going to have a better middle school student, a better high school student, with the goal that that student is going to graduate, go to college, and he or she won't need a remediation class, which will be, you know, the reason why we do things and and help these students. So I want to get to the next slide because I think you're going to find this very helpful as well. I have put a list of resources available for students and for you as counselors as well. You have ACT or the ACT.org/student. This is where students can find resources about college planning, financial aid. They can register to take their ACT. They can go back and see their scores. The website for ACT profile is act.org/profile. One of the questions that I have here is, can counselors view inventories and assessment? What you can do here is, when you link with your students on profile, you have a profile as a counselor, the student has a profile as a student, you two can connect and share information. That's how you're going to be able to see where they landed, where they are, and what they're doing. Obviously, our friends who are hosting this event, College Week Live, a great resource for the students, again, online, to go and explore many of the colleges that College Week Live has online. You can have a virtual college visit that gives the students an opportunity to connect of the way they do things, because everything that they do anymore is online or on their phones. Newfuturo.com, a service provider in Spanish. So for you counselors who have a large population of students who are Hispanic, a great way to help them. Scholarships from the UNCF.org, the United Negro College Fund. MALDEF. MALDEF also has, and this could be a whole different presentation, scholarships for undocumented students, right? As we see more minorities coming through and more Hispanics, MALDEF has a booklet of um, scholarships that are available for students regardless of their immigration status. So that's something that I think you're going to find very helpful. Let me see here, CollegeNet, financialaid.org, scholarships.com, FastWeb, another service that is free. They provide, the student creates a profile and they match scholarships that match um, their profile, and then encourage those students to apply. Then we get into the military, today's GI Bill, and also Hispanic Scholarship Fund.net. You have all that information available to you at no charge. So we have, resources that we need to make sure more of our parents have. I think, like I said earlier, this information will be available. You'll be able to download it uh, from the College Week Live website. Play this presentation again. Feel free to connect with me. We're going to have time for maybe a couple of more questions. I know time is running out. And we have my contact information. I'm going to leave this contact information. Feel free to connect with me. Again, I might not have an answer to all your questions, but I guess I will tell you that I will make sure I can get the answer for you. My number is there. That's my cell phone number and my email. Feel free to connect with me at any time. I see some emails on questions, no questions, or comments. Um, Please include me in the list to get in the poster. Please, you have my email. Make sure you send me an email. Tell me your location, how many posters would you like, and I will make sure that our fulfillment area they schedule sending that for you. Again, the poster is it's a big poster, but it's a great visual aid to make sure that the students understand where they are and where they fall with their ACT score, and where can they go next, and what they need to learn next to take it to the next level. So I see a couple of thank yous. Great. Again, think of us as a resource. We have this as a not-for-profit. Remember, we are here to help, and ACT is much more than just the ACT. And think of me as a resource for reaching out, doing outreach activities. If you need to connect with speakers, if you have local conferences that you would like a presentation, I'm happy to explore those opportunities and assist however we can, and also on your own network of counselors. Make sure you are sharing the things that work. A lot of things are working. A lot of people are doing great work across the country. So um, how do we make sure that we're sharing this information? Before we close, I need to tell you just a couple of closing housekeeping items. Thank you for joining us today. Obviously, it's been my pleasure. Again, Juan Garcia with ACT. You have my contact information on the screen. We hope you will join us again on April 3rd, where we will review and teach some strategies and key areas of support that can help the students with learning differences, such as ADHD and with autism spectrum disorders on their transition successfully to college. That's a webinar that is coming up on April 3rd through College Week Live. Again, thank you to College Week Live, a great resource um, here to help. And again, I'm going to leave my information there for another minute or so. So if you need to connect with me, send me an email. Happy to assist as needed. Anyone in the country, we have either myself or some of our field staff who will be happy to connect with you. I cannot say thank you enough for the hard work that you do. As I said at the beginning, I know that you wear many, many hats, and helping students, in my eyes, there's no better paycheck. You do a lot, you do it very well, and think about the impact that we're having on students now as they prepare for their careers later. Thank you very much again. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for everything that you do. Thanks.